Mary and I got to know each other based on our mutual shared interest in dyslexia. Not only are we both dyslexics, but we're both the parents of dyslexic children. One of the things that I found fascinating is that Mary, unlike me, was not diagnosed until she was actually in the offices getting her son diagnosed, and you discovered somehow that, well, tell us about that.
So Charlie, who's my son, who's now 12, had difficulty reading, writing, speaking, processing information, and he was extremely frustrated. And as I've mentioned in the car, he would bang his head on the floor when he was a child, and I would think, oh my God, what is wrong? And so in the office of many doctors, they said, get him tested. So we get him tested, and lo and behold, he comes back dyslexic. And all of the questions they were asking, I said to myself, that is the way I think. Oh my God. And this big wave and relief came over me, and I started crying and crying and crying. And I realized I'm not stupid. Yeah. I'm dyslexic. Yeah. And it was a relief to realize this, not only for myself, but for my son at an early age, where I could support him and give him what he needs to succeed in a way where I had to struggle.
It's amazing. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know what movie it's taken from, but The Land of the Misfit Toys.
Oh, yes.
Right? What movie is that?
It's put one foot in front of the other. Isn't that the one?
Yeah, but I don't know what that is. You know.
Is it Santa Claus is coming to town, or I don't remember.
Okay, all right. These are whatever that movie may be. The beautiful thing is that, you know, there's this. As far as I remember it, and I know the story, is that, you know, you've got this repository for all these toys that just don't work like the others, and then they wind up finding this place and discovering that they share a bond and a communal, you know, camaraderie. And what I would imagine that for you as a mother, to have obviously harbored great concern for your son, right? I mean, we all, you know, the idea of him banging his head against the ground out of frustration must have caused you tremendous anxiety. Then to go and find out that this issue not only had a name, a diagnosis, and steps that could be taken to help remediate what his frustration was stemming from, but then all of a sudden you realize that you're in the same land of misfit toys as your son. And I would imagine that, tell me if you would, about how your concern for him and then the relief that you felt about your own childhood and self-image, how that changed your ability to parent in a different way.
Well, just to take you back for a moment, that whole process took so long, because at first you're in denial. Not my kid, not my kid. And then that process, once you start to accept it and own it, and then find out, what is this? And then you feel the same way and understand that this is the way your brain works, and that it's okay. And others have a brain similar to yours.
Yeah, so you went through, obviously, concern. You went through a very prolonged process of trying to discover what that was, and you were in a state of denial. And then tell us how that denial translated into where you are today.
So once you start realizing what dyslexia is, and that it's actually an advantage. One person asked me a question, what is your kryptonite and what is your superpower? And I would have said, my dyslexia is my kryptonite. And now I realize that it's my superpower. And by researching and understanding and accepting that the way I see the world and the way Charlie sees the world is actually a gift, gave me the power and courage to advocate for him, to advocate for myself, to share it with people I've been working with for years and trying to, and hiding that, oh no, they're gonna find out I'm stupid. Really, they're gonna learn it. And saying, no, I'm dyslexic, I'm not stupid. And this is the gift I can provide to them. So that process has given me courage and strength. And I'm very proud of Charlie and where he is today. And my journey has just started. I'm excited.
Now, for somebody, we're very fortunate. We live in Boston, Massachusetts. There's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of focus on education. One could argue that if you are going to have dyslexia, Boston's a great place, right? Because there's an awareness. There's a societal consciousness. What would you say to a parent who is starting off, who may not have the blessings of the resources that we have in Boston? What's the first step? What have you discovered to be the most powerful thing that you can do?
Well, first is to understand what it is. And if you're not blessed like me, who has it and understands how we think differently, to do whatever it takes to really understand. My husband does not have dyslexia, and it's hard for him at times to understand it. But I explain it to him, like, take an article, read it backwards within 5 minutes, and then give me a synopsis of what this means. And then he starts to realize, oh, wow, that's hard. And so understanding it first is the part that you need to do, and then you can advocate, because you know how to advocate for what they need.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That a lot of what caused me to start NoticeAbility was reading a book called The Dyslexic Advantage. Now, I think that is really important, as you've just said, to understand the nuances of what dyslexia is, what it's like to have dyslexia, so that you can create a foundation of understanding and empathy. I would then recommend, as a secondary course of reading, to pick up The Dyslexic Advantage, because for those who haven't read it, it is a neurological explanation of how our brains are constructed versus the general population, and then how that construction actually translates into a set of cognitive skills, and then how those cognitive skills often present in a disproportionate high amount of success in certain vocational paths. Then, I think that that evolution of understanding, okay, here's the difficulties, here's the remedial skills that we need to incorporate, and now here's the very substantial silver lining, is sort of the whole spectrum of what it is like to embrace that diagnosis. And I wouldn't start with the book first and go backwards. I think it's really necessary to build those blocks into place. Another thing that I have discovered largely through this swim is the power of a parent-led nonprofit group called Decoding Dyslexia, which has a state chapter in, I believe, every state. And this is a resource that is incredibly deep and robust in terms of what your child needs and what to advocate for within a public school situation, a charter, a private school, etc. And it has a really broad reach in terms of individuals that have likely gone down the path that you're going, and no sense in trying to reinvent the wheel. Reach out to Decoding Dyslexia, and this is not a plug for them. This is a resource. I mean, they don't make any money. They don't have any products to sell. They are just a bunch of compassionate parents that want to help others who are just getting into this game. Yeah.
And it's very complex. We've had to bring on an advocate to advocate for Charlie in school, because give me that IEP, I don't understand it. I don't know what he needs, and she has really helped us get the resources and the support that Charlie has needed. And then to hear that he gets a standing ovation in his English composition presentation, where the special ed teacher is crying with his progress.
Unbelievable.
I mean, once given the support that they need, it just, they go off.
That's so profound. And I would imagine that those stories are rampant. I mean, I know that personally, my wife Sally and I at Bodie's, end of year teacher parent conference was starting to hit some of the reading benchmarks for his age. And that doesn't sound like a big deal to anybody that doesn't have dyslexia, but it's a huge deal to start at this incredible deficit and to work your way into a position of hitting the benchmarks and being a quote-unquote normal reader for that age bracket. That's a huge achievement.
Huge.
I love those stories, and I think that there are a lot of families that are out there that are desperate to make that their story, but just kind of are faced with a really difficult challenge, like what's my first step? And I love what you've talked about, the IEP, which, for everybody with a child with dyslexia understands is a individual education program, which is a sort of a tailored scholastic agenda for an individual's particular learning style. And that is not only, it's a federal mandate that every child who has been diagnosed receives one of those, and it's enforceable, and it should be enforceable. Obviously, one wants to avoid the litigious path when possible, but I think that, once again, is where Decoding Dyslexia as an organization comes into play, because, families come from a broad spectrum of financial resources, and an advocate may be a feasible route, or it may not be. And I think that Decoding Dyslexia is one of those organizations that's able to address your financial position and create a solution that addresses your resource needs or capacities. So you guys, Charlie's 12, right? He's in, going into
7th grade.
So he has essentially been down and successfully crossed the finish line of the remedial reading process. How is he feeling about middle school?
This year was his 6th grade, and it was the entrance into middle school,
Okay.
and it was very, very tough.
Yeah.
His executive functioning skills are horrific.
Yeah.
Remembering his homework to take it to and from school. He may have completed it, but it doesn't get back to school.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge for him, and him getting comfortable with multiple teachers was a challenge in them understanding him. Again, that's where Charlie advocating and learning to advocate for himself is really important.
Yeah.
This is the time he needs to learn that, because when he's in high school, I'm not going to be there. When he's I will be there for high school, but when he goes to college, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
And so he needs to learn those skills to advocate for himself, to tell the teachers what he needs, to tell them how he needs to learn and how he absorbs information. So the process has been really tough.
Yeah.
But he's done amazingly well. As I said, he's in a bilingual school.
Which blows my mind, by the way, because I had French forced down my throat, and I still can barely pronounce my own last name. So I don't know how he's swinging that one, but good for him.
He's so proud of it.
Yeah, as he should be. Are you kidding? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We struggled a lot. Should we take him out? But he wanted to stay. Yeah. And that intrinsic motivation got him over these barriers and over these struggles and into a new place of confidence. He's getting to the point of starting to advocate for himself. He's not perfectly there yet, but he'll grow into it.
Yeah.
I said to Charlie on a bike ride a couple of weeks ago, I was in tears, and he said, "What's wrong, Mommy?" I said, "I knew I was going to learn from you as a mother, but I didn't know that you were going to give me the gift of learning about my dyslexia and what a gift that was. And it was, I said, you gave me a gift, Charlie. And now we can go through this together. It was...
Wow. I'm glad you're wearing glasses, because I bet there's a little bit of tearing up going behind those shades right now. You're awesome. Thank you for this. Thank you so much. And not only that, but you're this ridiculous triathlete, and now you're going to get in the water with me. That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.